My name is Sarah. I'm 24 years old and I work retail management at a mall in Portland. I've never been good with people. My dad left when I was 7. My mom raised me alone, worked 2 jobs, and I learned early that you can't rely on anyone but yourself. I work alone. I live alone. I prefer it that way. New Year's Eve 2024, everyone was trying to get out of work early, but I didn't have anywhere to be. No party, no family. My roommate was going out with friends, so I volunteered to close the store. Extra pay seemed like a good idea at the time. I finished closing at 10:35 p.m. The mall was empty, just me and the sound of my own footsteps echoing through the corridors. I counted the register, locked up, and headed to the train station. The last train out leaves at 10:47 p.m. I was on the platform at 10:44. There was one other person waiting, a man, maybe mid-50s, sitting on a bench near the entrance. When I arrived, he looked up and held my gaze just a second too long before looking away. I remember thinking he was creepy, but I also remember thinking that I always think people are creepy. That's my problem. I assume the worst. I was right this time. The train arrived exactly on time. The man boarded through the middle car. I boarded through the front. Inside, maybe 5 people scattered throughout, a couple in the back, an older woman, 2 office workers. I found a seat about 6 rows from the front and sat down. Around 10:55, I felt him move. Not heard, felt. The shift in air when someone stands up nearby. He walked past my seat and went into the bathroom between the cars. I watched him go. The bathroom door closed. A few minutes later, he came back out. He didn't sit in the back where he'd been before. He sat directly across from me, 1 row up, close enough to touch. He was breathing hard, not gasping. Hard, like he'd been doing something physical, like he'd been preparing for something. "You work retail?" His voice was rough, gravelly. I didn't answer right away. I turned to look at him. His face was weathered, deeply lined. His eyes were pale blue, almost colorless. He was looking at me, direct, unblinking. "Not far," I said. He nodded slowly. "Good neighborhoods over there. Safe." He paused. His hand moved from his knee to the armrest between us. His fingers were inches from my leg. I could see the dirt under his fingernails, dark crescents. "You work late often?" "Depends," I said. I turned back to the window. "That's rough," he said, "being alone like that." The train kept moving. We were in the industrial section now. Old warehouses, empty lots. The train was slowing. My stop was still 6 stops away. "That's rough," he said again, softer this time. "Being alone, late shifts, nobody around to help you, nobody who knows where you are." He leaned forward, just slightly. His hand stayed on the armrest. His fingers were still inches from my leg. "Do you ever get scared?" he asked. "Working alone? Late at night? Knowing that nobody would hear you if something happened?" My heart started hammering. I stood up. He stood up too. But he didn't move toward the doors. He shifted his weight. His body was between me and the exit. Not completely blocking it, but positioned like a wall. The train was still moving. We weren't at a station yet. "I need to get off," I said. "I know," he said. And there was something in his voice. Something knowing. Something like he'd done this before. The train started to slow. The doors opened. I had to squeeze past his shoulder to get by. He didn't touch me. He just stood there and let me pass. I could smell him. Cigarette smoke and something stale. Something wrong. I got off onto the platform. The cold air hit me like a wall. I didn't look back. But as the doors were closing, I turned around. He was standing in the middle of the car, watching me. His pale eyes tracked mine. Then the train was gone. I stood there, breathing hard. Just a concrete platform and a metal shelter. Nobody else around. The street beyond was empty. I checked my phone. 11:06 p.m. The next train would arrive in about 8 minutes. 4 minutes later, I heard the train approaching from the direction I'd come. The same train, heading back on the return loop. It slowed as it passed through the station. He was standing at the window. His forehead was pressed against the glass. His pale eyes were looking directly at me. He placed his palm flat against the window from the inside, like he was trying to reach through. The train kept moving. Then he was gone. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. The train runs a loop. If he stayed on, he'd be back here in about 40 minutes. Unless he got off at another stop. Unless he was planning something else. The next train arrived about 4 minutes later. I could see through the windows as it slowed. Maybe 5 people inside. I didn't see him. I got on anyway and sat where I could see in both directions. I made it to my stop at 11:21 p.m. I walked fast to my apartment building. 5 minutes. I kept looking over my shoulder the whole way. The streets were mostly empty. Just a few people coming back from parties. Nobody following me. My apartment has a security code. I entered it with shaking hands. I got inside, locked the main door, put the chain on. I sat on my couch for 2 hours. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't text anyone. I just sat there. Then I filed a report with the transit authority. I described him. Mid-50s, dark jacket, pale blue eyes, weathered face. The woman who took the report said they'd look into it. She didn't sound concerned. I never saw him again on the train after that night, but about 3 weeks later, I was waiting for the train at a different station. Different time. A man got on, maybe 40s. He sat directly across from me. He said, "You work retail, don't you?" I got off at the next stop and called an Uber. $30 to get home. But I did it. I went to a Portland transit forum and posted anonymously, asking if anyone else had weird encounters on that line during that time of evening. 3 people responded within hours. Different men, same questions. "You work retail?" Same watching, same breathing, all in the last 2 months. All between 10 p.m. and midnight on the outbound trains. One person said a man followed them for a block when they got off, disappeared into an alley when a car drove past. Another person said the man had a notebook, writing something down. Nobody knew what the men wanted, but we all knew something was being studied. Something was being documented. They were learning our schedules, our routes, our vulnerabilities. I stopped taking the train around that time. I drive now. Or I take Ubers. I leave work earlier, so I'm never on the late commute. I changed my entire routine because of one man with pale blue eyes and dirt under his fingernails. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is what I didn't tell you. When I squeezed past him to get off the train, when I was trying to move past his body blocking the exit, he didn't just stand there. He moved his arm, just slightly. His hand brushed against my hip. It was quick. It was light. But it was deliberate. He touched me. And when I realized what had happened, when I understood that he touched me intentionally, something broke inside me. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just got off the train and walked away. I filed a report that mentioned he'd threatened me, but I didn't tell them he'd actually touched me. I don't know why. Shame, maybe. Or fear that they wouldn't believe me. That was 18 months ago. I haven't slept a full night since. Not once. I check my locks 3 times before I try to sleep. I get maybe 2 or 3 hours before I wake up in a panic, convinced someone is outside. I can't ride the train anymore. I drive now, even though it costs more, even though it takes longer. I take different routes home. I vary my schedule. I do everything I can to be unpredictable. But last month, I saw him again. Or I think I did. He was on the other side of the street, maybe 50 yards away. Pale blue eyes, weathered face. He was looking at me. When our eyes met, he smiled. Then he turned and walked away into the crowd. I haven't been able to confirm if it was actually him. The police said there's no way to know. They said I might be seeing patterns that aren't there. That trauma can do that to you. But I know what that smile meant. The forum post stopped after that night. All 3 of the other people who responded went silent. Nobody answered my messages. I don't know if they're okay. I don't know if they moved or if something else happened to them. I just know they're not talking anymore. The transit authority never caught anyone. They said they reviewed the footage but found nothing unusual. No evidence of predatory behavior. No pattern to investigate. Just people riding the train. So I'm telling you this. If you're on a late night train and someone sits too close, if someone breathes hard when they talk to you, if someone asks you questions about your schedule, your work, whether you're ever alone, get off at the next stop. Don't rationalize it. Don't tell yourself you're overreacting. Don't convince yourself that you're being paranoid, because the men on the train don't stop. The forum posts going silent doesn't mean it stopped. It means nobody's talking about it anymore. It means they got better at it. And I still don't know why. I don't know what they want. I don't know if he's still looking for me, or if I was just one in a long line of people he studied before moving on to someone else. I just know that every time I'm in a crowd, I scan for pale blue eyes. Every time someone gets too close, my heart starts hammering. Every time I'm alone, I wonder if someone is watching. I never got back on that train line. I take a longer route now. Every single day.